guys, I'm here with Steve Walls at Mariner Sales for the cold water and hypothermia class. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the class, Steve?
Well, we're just going to cover how to prepare yourself to go out in cold water. We want to cover clothing, symptoms of hypothermia, and what to do to treat it if you do come down with some hypothermia.
So this time of year, the people I worry about most are the fishermen because they go out solo a lot.
The first thing that starts is that you're going to start to shiver, just the normal, feel a little cold type of stuff, and that's when you want to catch it. If you're with a group, you want to always be communicating with each other what state everyone's in. If someone starts getting cold, they need to let you know right away because it's much easier to take care of at that early stage than later on. After that, you start getting a little bit disoriented. They might start behaving uncharacteristic of that person. Someone like myself who talks a lot, they might shut down, start getting quiet, might get aggressive. So that's another reason why you need to stop this earlier. It's much harder to deal with somebody as they get further down the road. After that, your legs start going numb. This is what I was experiencing when I was doing my swim. Your body's trying to conserve heat, so it starts shutting down the blood flow to your extremities and pulls it into your core. At that point, you start losing the strength in your arms and legs. So if you're in the water and you're hitting that point and you're having to use all that strength to pull yourself out of the water and do all these maneuvers to get back in your boat, it starts getting very difficult. I hit that point. That's when I was floating my way out toward the ocean. I tried about 8 times to get back in my kayak, and about the 8th time I realized that my legs weren't kicking very well anymore. That's why I had to make a decision. I had to do something different because that wasn't working out. So your legs and arms will start losing their strength. You'll start to really lose your mental state at that point. You'll start getting like as if you're drunk. When I hit the beach and I was trying to get my flares out, it took me probably 2 or 3 minutes to get the pocket unbuckled and get the flares out because everything was just so, it felt like you were just moving in oil. And then I realized as I got out, so I thought, I don't want to shoot myself in the face with this, so I'm going to be really, really careful. So if you get down to that point, you're beyond helping yourself. I couldn't help myself. My legs weren't working. I did have my cognitive abilities, but usually you won't. So if you're alone, you don't have anyone to help treat you. So if you let yourself get that far, you're in serious trouble. If you're in a group, at least you have the group resources to help you out. So what kind of resources do we want to carry as a group? Any suggestions?
Radios?
Yep, some communication. These days in these urban settings, usually your cell phones are good because the reception just about everywhere around here. But you carry radio, communication, know where your outs are, that if you get in trouble, where am I going to get the group out quickly? That you have people in the group that have the ability to get you back in your boat. If we go out as a group, we can be safer as a group, but that's if we have some skills in that group. We carry every person should bring their own extra set of dry clothes in a dry bag.
Water, food. You can stave off the hypothermia if you're getting
Down on calories and water, you're going to get hypothermia much quicker. So as a group, you need to make sure everyone comes prepared with food, water, extra clothes, that you have ability to communicate, and you know the area you're in so that you can get out if you get into serious trouble. The main thing I would say is that you can paddle year-round here, but you're only safe doing it in a group. When it gets down to this time of year, this is just as dangerous around here as it is up in Seattle, up in Canada. The water here is just as cold and will kill you just as quick. So if you go out with groups, you're much better prepared to take care of a situation. We had a group go out on White Rock Lake and they had someone get in trouble. And they capsized, they couldn't get him back in the boat. They had 12 people in the group and no one knew how to get him back in his boat. And they're in a creek that's got steep banks and slick sides, so they ended up sorting it out by getting him to climb a tree and get in the boat. But so you need to, being in the group is not enough. You have to know that people in the group have the skills to take care of a bad situation like that. Going back over the symptoms, you start out in hypothermia getting a little shivery, just a little cold, and that's where we need to stop it. We need to pull into shore, get you dressed up with warmer clothes, exercise you. If the paddling isn't enough, maybe you need to run some laps to get warmed up. Then past that, we get irritable, hard to work with, you're losing strength, mental capability, and after that, you're just pretty much have to be assisted with everything. If someone gets in a state to where they're not mobile, they're not lucid, you're pretty sure the temperature is down at 90, below 94 or so, 95, you don't want to just pick them up and move them. You want to say, okay, let's get them over to the fire over there. You got to move gently and slowly because the cold blood in their legs and arms can rush back into their core and cause you to have a cardiac arrest. So you want to be gentle and move it slow and easy and warm people up slowly if they're that cold. If you're at that point, it's time for 911. You're already, if you're having to treat that, it's because you're out in the wilderness. If you're anywhere in town, if you get to that kind of point, the ambulance needs to be on the way. That person needs to be evacuated. The ways that we can avoid all that is to come to the paddle fed and well watered so we don't have to deal with that out on the water. Have the proper dress. If you aren't going to invest in a dry suit and you're going to paddle with a group like our meetup group, it is still possible to go out there. You just want to wear like a fleece jacket. I wear rain gear to keep the water drips off and keep me drier. You can layer up just like you would for any cold weather, not wearing cotton, and it will be safe enough to go out in a group. You don't want to be going out there in jeans and cotton shirts. I don't know if you're aware of the saying cotton kills up in the Northwest. It's common knowledge that you don't wear cotton when you go out hiking and things like that. Cotton absorbs water and gets very heavy and then dries out very slowly. Where the synthetics like I'm wearing here, this stuff can get wet in 15 minutes and be dry. So we got to look at our dress and the weather conditions and the composition of our group to make sure we're safe. What kind of weather conditions do you think we'd want to? You'll see a real wide variety of footwear. A lot of the people in the group that paddle a lot during the winter, they'll wear these what they call muckluck boots. They come up to about here so that they can walk into the water and keep their feet dry and get in the boat. Some people will wear good old rubber boots and get into their boat and then take the boots off at the last second to get in. Yeah, you definitely want to have some warm footwear. I've let my gear kind of get down to where I'm wearing what you guys would normally wear out there. I don't have all the stuff I had in the Northwest. It's worn out. So I moved on to, I didn't restock with all that stuff because you don't use it here that often. So currently what I'll use on a day is just old tennis shoes and some socks and keep extra socks with me. Don't really wear anything waterproof right now. I'm just careful when I get in. If you get dumped, it's all going to get wet anyway. The boots aren't going to keep you dry if you get that deep. But yeah, some good insulated. You don't want anything too thick because you won't be able to get your feet in your boat very well. So it has to be like a neoprene material to give you insulation. So picking your day to go out. It's during the winter time. If we're going with a group and we're not dressed like we do up in the Northwest, we're dressed like your average folks down here will wear with a windbreaker and a fleece. Then I'm going to make sure I pick a day when it's like plus 55 degrees. That's pretty much my cutoff line, is if the high temperature that day is not above 55. And then I want the wind below 15 miles per hour. An average beginner, you get above 15 miles an hour and it gets difficult. And then you add to it that you're getting splashed more with water, now everyone's getting wet. So we want a calmer day, sunshine, and then in an area of paddling that's not too remote. Well, if it's windy, if it gets above 15, we just cancel. But if you're considering your launch site, the windward side of the lake, like if it's a north wind, we're going to go to the north side of the lake. The downside to that philosophy is that we're paddling along, we got 15 mile an hour wind coming this way, the lake's out this way. Someone goes over and I go over to help and he hasn't taken the class, he doesn't know how to get back in, we're having to talk our way through it. We finally, after 15 minutes, get him back in and we look up and where are we now? We're not near the shore where we started. We are now blown out toward the middle of the lake. So as you get further away from shore, what's going to be happening? The waves get bigger. Everything gets rougher. Well, the person you just put in the boat fell out in the calmer water. Now you're out in rougher water. So you see how the situation starts to cascade. And yeah, that's the philosophy of, well, it's a windy day, we're going to go to the windward side of the lake and stay out of the wind. Well, if that all goes as planned, that works. But if anything comes up to alter that plan, you're going to be pushed to the open water. We want to paddle with groups if we're going out there. Know someone in the group can put me back in my boat if I fall out. That we have our extra clothes to put on if we get saturated. We've got food and water to keep the energy going, and we know where help is if we need it. Would everyone like to see how to get back in your boats? Yes. Let's grab 2 boats real quick. All right, so we're out paddling. Someone looked over their shoulder at the birds and went over it accidentally. So the most common type of rescue we do is called a T rescue. So I pull up, I check on my partner over here, make sure first I check in with him and make sure when I say, "Are you okay?" he responds in a nice calm way. He's not panicked and not going to climb on top of my boat. And once I determine that they're calm and it's okay to approach them, then I'll go ahead and come on in here. We're going to do what's called a T rescue. So the person in the water, I'm going to ask them to put their shoulder under the boat and then shove straight up. So we're doing like this. So you just put your shoulder up under the edge of the cockpit, grab the cockpit rim, shove straight up, and the more vigorously you do it, the less water will be left in the boat. When the boat turns over, it's got a bubble of air in it. When I flip it over, if I do it really quickly, not much water will end up in it. If I do it slowly, the water runs in as you turn it. So we turn it over real vigorously, and then I ask that person to just stay there. I pull up here, and I have that person transfer, once I get a hold of the boat, I have them transfer over to my boat. So as a person in the water, you don't want to ever become disconnected from your paddle or boat, mainly your boat. Try to hold on to everything. If you become separated, now I've got a problem. How do I put you back together with your boat? So make sure you stay attached to your boat until I tell you to come over to mine. And then you'll move down the perimeter lines, come over here, and you'll just hang out back here, hold on the perimeter line. Okay. So I've got my victim back here. When they moved over, they didn't swim from here to here. They moved up here and over to here. So it's like you're in outer space. Do not become disconnected from the boats. Okay, so this is why it's called a T rescue, because we're in a T formation here. So my victim is back here. I grab the boat, I push away first to get momentum going. I pull right up on top. Okay, then I reach underneath here, grab the far line, grab the line here, turn it over. Now I've got an empty boat. I slide it back in. And at that point, when you slide it in, make sure you grab a hold of something because it will take off on its own really well. So now I got them side by side. I have had as I pulled this up, I tell this person to come around the outside, down the perimeter line, and now they're right here. Okay, now I have to switch.
Steve, you might mention
Gary.
how you're managing paddles.
Huh?
How you're managing the paddles.
Yeah.
Hop
in.
When you open out, Gary?
Yeah, because we didn't bring in paddles. She brought a really good point. One of the big issues during this whole process is paddle management. So when you pull up, you can put your paddle right across your lap and your belly button,
And you've got your buddy.
just right here. And then you take their paddle and put it with yours. So you got 2 paddles stuck in your belly button here, and you can lean forward. It locks them in, especially if you have a nice little locker right here. Then you pull the boat up, and the paddles are sitting in my lap as I work. That way, if a big wave hits us right now, I've got paddles ready right here. They're not all stowed away under bungee cords. You'll see people tuck them under the cords. That's not a good way to do it. Okay, so she's pulled up. She's dumped the water out of the boat. She's got a good grip on it. She leans over.
And you gotta really lean.
Yeah. She's not real big, so she's not going to use her muscles to do this. She's going to use her weight on the boat. So then I'm back here, and I need to swim and kick my feet up to the surface, all the way up on the surface. People's tendency is just to hang there. And then you're sitting like this. Well, now you're doing a pull-up over the boat, where if you get your feet to the surface, now you're sliding up on the boat. So make sure you kick your feet up to the surface, reach all the way across. If you can grab the other person's boat, their lines, grab their lines, kick 1, 2, 3, you're up. And then here's where it gets odd. You have to turn your head to the back.
You're hanging on.
One more way. So did you notice, as I got in, I had to deal with this big old seat fold up under me. It's one reason I don't like these seats. So another way to do this, it's called a heel hook. So with the heel hook, and this takes less muscle for me. It takes more muscle for her. So I take the outside leg and hook it in. This hand comes over here, and now I just roll up onto the boat. It tends to get you in over that seat a little better.
I thought it was actually easier.
But yes, most people find that one, once they understand it, they find that one easier. But their tendency, it's hard to do without being in the water, people tend to want to pull across the boat. That's not going to work. What you're doing is I'm stretching out this way and rolling onto the boat. And it's hard to get the visual right. But so yeah, it's easier when you know how to do it correctly, because it uses more of these your leg muscle to pull you in, and it's getting you straightened out on the axis of the boat. So it is easier to get in, but if done correctly. If done incorrectly, it's disaster.
Are there any special considerations for sit on top versus sit inside?
But no, I found that a lot of people cannot make it back into their sit on top. So what you need to do is, before you go out and get yourself in possible trouble, is practice this stuff in a calm, warm situation. So yeah, I would encourage you during the summertime to get in, near shore and jump off the boat, jump back on, and practice it. It's especially the sit on tops. It's to do it by yourself and not get the boat turned over back on top of you. It's a little bit of a coordinated movement that you got to get used to, where you're kicking and pulling and making that lunge really good the first time. For folks who still can't make it back in, then you got to come up with ways to make it possible. You can use a paddle float. So a paddle float, you'll see this on YouTube a lot, the paddle float rescue. It will get you back in your boat, but I wouldn't rely on it unless you've proved to yourself that you could go out in those more extreme circumstances and get back in. The best rescue is the one we just showed you, because you get stabilized. But if you're by yourself, then I would practice a lot with the paddle float. Paddle float on sit on tops, you use them kind of the same way. It's a balloon that goes on the end of the paddle. You lock it into your boat one way or another, and you use it as a pontoon to help balance it while you get back in. A stirrup, it makes like a little ladder for you. Hook on the side of your boat. You got the paddle floats out here supporting the boat. So you hook on the stirrup, put your foot in, and now you can stand up like a ladder and just get back in. Yeah, you can have all these systems, but you got to practice it in the real circumstance to see if it's going to work. So this, I don't want to open it up, but if you let it come out, then it's just a strap with this step. There's a hoop at the bottom, and that's the step right there. So I put my foot in there, and it helps me climb right back in. So this is the paddle float. This is one that's a block of styrofoam. So it just goes right on the paddle. And then either you can feed it under the bungees, and that will work. But the only downside to that is, once I get in the boat, now I have to get my paddle released from the bungees and back up to here without falling over again. All right, so we slide this under the bungees. I like to actually go under the perimeter rope. All right, so that makes like a pontoon. You're in the water, you got this all rigged up. So I put this leg up here. That helps me get up here. This leg hooks on, so I can bring this leg over here, and then you turn it. So the challenge during that whole time is you have to have more weight over here than over there. So once you get here, then you got to turn over. Oop, now we got a blown hatch. So if you do intend to do solo paddling, I would encourage you to come do the rescue class with us. Figure out what the system is for you and your boat. Because it's different for everybody. You have to come up with what works for you, and then practice that enough before you start going out there alone. So if you're going to spend time practicing something, I wouldn't practice that. I'd practice what's called a cowboy reentry. And so with this one, same thing as before. You're going to kick your feet up to the surface, haul yourself out like a seal. But now, instead of turning your head to the back like you did in the assisted, we're going to turn it forward like you'd want to do. People want to turn forward. So you turn around here, and the trick is keeping your legs out wide. So it's really uncomfortable. You got to spread your legs out wide to keep your balance. They're your balance beam. And so you bring your knees forward, and then your body. Knees, body. Knees, body. And then you get to here. The trick that everyone can usually get to this position, but then they have trouble figuring out how to move forward. They want to just drag themselves forward. And with a life jacket on, it's not real pretty. So you pull your knees forward and grip the sides of the boat with your thighs and lunge your body. Like that. So you're inchworming your way up. And then now, if my legs could go straight down, I would sit up. And you end up here, and then you slowly get in one leg and the other. You know, I didn't think I was going to spend an hour and a half in the water that day. And I'm here to tell you, luckily, that the reality hits really fast when you're out there. That you are going to die in a short time if you do not solve this problem. And so I don't mean to scare people, but you should be scared. If you have knowledge of a situation, you can mitigate the danger.
And what would you say are 3 things people don't usually think of when going out in cold water?
Probably that you need to drink lots of water and eat some food to keep their energy level up. It's like having a fire burning. You got to keep feeding it to keep that warmth going. That and probably the wind conditions. They don't give that enough concern.
Yeah, I think we all get a little overconfident out there sometimes. We definitely appreciate the class, Steve. It was awesome.
Thank you.